quite strongly to Gertrude. Then we go back to the player king. He talks fairly generally for a little while about human nature and the fact that human promises are untrustworthy. So he uses a few techniques there. You can go through that if that applies to a theme that you're interested in, so the nature of humanity or corruption. There's quite a few good techniques in there that you can find. You can come and talk to me about that if you want to go through that in more detail. I'm going to move through it fairly quickly. So basically it just says that human beings are all fairly self-interested, so everything that we do is based on our fortune. So we do what is best for ourselves. We do what will help our status in life improve. And he also, he's not just talking about romantic love, he's also talking about friendly love. So that idea of your friends will betray you if it will help them in their lives, which obviously relates directly back to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. The main point here is at the end where he says, this is summarising up the whole point and bringing it back to the focus. So he just says that he expects that the player queen will remarry after he dies. And so then she immediately sort of says what will happen to her if she does marry. She basically curses herself with a living hell without food or light, with lots of desperation and no happiness if she remarries. Hamlet interjects here, so this is the second time he's interjected, and you can see that his bitterness and his anger is really directed towards his mother. It's not really about the play. So then, moving on as quickly as we can. So basically, they talk about that, and then Hamlet and Gertrude talk about it. Gertrude clearly doesn't get that this is supposed to be her because she's just making jokes about how the lady is overacting. And then King Claudius wants to know what's going to happen next, and Hamlet doesn't pay attention. Just in case you're referring to this in one of your essays, the name of the play is The Mousetrap. And Hamlet is kind of explaining it to everyone. There's some more sexual innuendo. There's more sexual innuendo there about Hamlet wanting to watch Ophelia and then kind of wanting to make her groan. So again, not really appropriate to address towards a woman of her status in public. It's just really wildly inappropriate. So then next, we go back to the play and we actually see the poisoning occur here. So then, as soon as we see the murder, the king stands up. Now, this isn't actually given to us in stage directions. This is given to us through speech. So Ophelia says the king rises, and that's how we know that Claudius has reacted. And then Hamlet exclaims, "What, frighted with false fire?" So we've got the alliteration there, indicating that Claudius is going to leave the room. False fire is a bit of a joke there. False fire is like a blank bullet. So it's sort of suggesting that Claudius is overreacting to a play, which of course was Hamlet's purpose in the first place. So then we see King Claudius wants light and runs away. So he doesn't want to see the rest of the play. He needs to get out of there. He's freaking out. Then we have Hamlet go into a nice introspective monologue there. He is talking just to Horatio, so he's able to be himself and be open. What I find most interesting here is, so he's talking to Horatio, he's being himself, he's not pretending to be mad anymore. And you can see that Horatio and Hamlet agree that Claudius definitely reacted to the talk of the poisoning. So this is where Hamlet is sure that Claudius is to blame. You can also see that his tone changes. So it seems to me as though he's having this nice intimate conversation with Horatio, an honest conversation with Horatio, and then I think he must see Rosencrantz and Guildenstern coming in order to change his tone like that. You might have a different interpretation of that, but that's the way I see it. Certainly there is a shift in tone from the very serious conversation he's been having with Horatio to a bit of a irreverent and joking tone that he takes on with Guildenstern and Rosencrantz in this exchange. Perhaps this change of tone indicates the depth of that rift in their friendship, and certainly the content of what they say indicates that. So Guildenstern says that the king is upset, and which is Collar. He's upset. His mood has been badly affected, and asks Hamlet, to try and fix it. And Hamlet says, "For me to put him to his purgation would perhaps plunge him into far more choler." So he's saying that if I tried to fix it, I'm going to make it worse, because obviously he knows things about Claudius that will make his situation worse. So it's actually a little bit of a threatening thing to say, that if he has anything to do with it, Claudius is going to get worse than he is now. He's obviously behaving a little bit erratically, because Guildenstern comments, "Start not so wildly from my affair." And then Guildenstern goes on to say that he's been sent to Hamlet by Gertrude. Hamlet deliberately misunderstands almost everything that Guildenstern says here, in particular here and here, but really throughout the whole thing. He's being very polite with his responses. They're not the responses of a friend, and that deliberate misunderstanding is quite frustrating for Guildenstern. We've got some more misunderstanding here. So at the bottom, Rosencrantz says, "Your behaviour hath struck her into amazement and admiration." Those things aren't necessarily good things. He means amazement as in she doesn't know what to think. But Hamlet responds as though it's definitely a good thing. So he's deliberately misunderstanding there again. Then further down here, we have Rosencrantz responding to the negative and hostile tone that Hamlet has taken, and that really polite phrasing that indicates that he's no longer being friendly towards Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So Rosencrantz is trying to find out what the problem is. He's upset about the end of the friendship. And so we're going to find out in a minute. He's going to respond to that in a minute. So basically, he draws their attention to the musicians who have come in, and he asks them, will you play upon this pipe? So, would you like to play one of these instruments? And then when he gets to the point, it turns out that he's comparing himself to the instrument. So he says that playing an instrument is as easy as lying. So that is a comment not just on Guildenstern and Rosencrantz and how often they have been lying to Hamlet about the fact that they're working for Claudius. It's also a comment on the fact that Hamlet has generalised this and suggested that all men find lying easy. So again, in the same way that he's taken his anger at Gertrude and Ophelia and is making comments about all women, he has also taken his sense of betrayal at Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and applying that to all men. So then he goes on, this is quite a telling speech, it's quite an angry speech. So you would play upon me, you would seem to know my stops, you would pluck out the heart of my mystery, you would sound me from my lowest note to the top of my compass. So he's basically comparing himself to the recorder. He's saying, you're playing, you say that you can't play this instrument, but you're trying to play me. You're trying to trick me into revealing things on the behalf of Claudius and Gertrude. And then he uses that blasphemous term again, God's blood. Do you think I am easier to be played on than a pipe? Call me what instrument you will, though you can fret me, though you can annoy me, you cannot play upon me. So he's saying you might be able to upset me and annoy me with your betrayal, but you won't find out what's going on. I'm not going to give in to you. So that's quite significant because it really displays the end of the friendship between Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and Hamlet. So we've seen it coming. It's been coming since they first arrived, but this is when it happens. So then we just have Polonius comes in and Hamlet makes fun of him. Basically, he's showing that Polonius is just a yes man who agrees with whatever his social superiors say. finally, getting to the end, Hamlet agrees to go and see his mother. And then he talks about his intentions when he sees her. So, first of all, he says that the time of night that it is the time when disease comes into the world. So we've got that imagery of disease again, which we've had since Act 1. And I just want to draw your attention to the statement, now could I drink hot blood? So up till now, Hamlet has found it fairly easy to focus on his intellect and his reason. But right at this moment, he's worked up and he's angry. He's really ready to enact his revenge. And so he tells himself to soften. He tells himself not to lose his nature. So he's trying to keep his temper, his emotional state under control. He wants to focus on his intellect. So he says, let me be cruel, not unnatural. So he does want to be mean to his mum. He does want to upset her so that she understands the depth of her betrayal. But he doesn't want to... He doesn't want to stop acting like a son. He still wants to be acting in a natural son-like way. He also says, and this is a little bit ironic considering that we know what happens once he does speak to his mother. He says that he's going to speak daggers but not actually use any. And he says that his tongue and soul will be hypocrites. So that means that even though he's saying nasty things to her, his soul won't mean them. So he's going to try and make her feel guilty and repent of getting involved with Claudius because of his words. So I hope that has helped. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Thank you for listening.